Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm so glad you're here this morning. Got a great show lined up, and you're going to really enjoy this morning's show. But first, our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin and Highway 77. Run by and check out the various programs they have over there. Water temperature is 58 degrees. High today will be only 61, but low is going to be 44. So we're cooling off again. We had a little bit of warmer weather yesterday, so cooling back off. River readings brought to us by Watson's Landing Marina, Watson Landing Marina, and Dry Storage, about 2 minutes there east of Harrison Avenue on Business Highway 98. The Apalachicola Bluntstown is still at around 20 foot, and that's dropping just a little bit, but it's still, river is still high. 20 foot is high. The Choctawhatchee at Caryville right at 13 foot, and it's dropping a little bit too, and it's still high though. Both rivers high, so be aware of it, all the floating objects, but they are going to be going down for the weekend, it looks like, at this point in time. Our tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery. Today is Wednesday, January 27th. We have about a 1 foot tide, but if you're looking for the rest of the week, we're not going to have hardly any tides on through Sunday. January is going to end with some really neat tides. So we're looking at a low this morning at 8:15 and a high tonight at 11:38. All right, rain forecast to be coming north-northeast. They're calling for about 10 to 20. So be a good little breeze out there today if you get out on that water. Take a break. Be right back with our guest. Welcome back and good morning, Travis.
Good morning.
Always great to have him on talking about law enforcement and all these things, but we're going to skip law enforcement right now. We're going to get into deer hunting because Travis has a great story and some great pictures. Tell us this story, Travis.
Yes, sir. Well, it begins three deer seasons ago, and we had this deer show up on camera.
It's up in Jackson County on his family farm.
Yes, sir, and it right there northeast of Marianna.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed up. This is the 2013-2014 deer season. We had this older buck show up, and you can see his neck's all scarred up. He had both G2s broken off. He was a fighter, and we put him at about 3.5 years old here. Mm-hmm. He had some muscle definition in his hams and shoulders, a little bit of belly sag.
Big, strong, healthy deer, but he'd been fighting. Like I say, the scars and all.
Oh yeah, he was always a fighter, and there he is there, and body kind of doesn't match the rack there. His neck all swelled up there from the rut, but you can tell he's got a good frame, and a couple of his tines are broken off there. So we saw this deer and we said, hey, okay, this looks like a nice 10 point. He's kind of busted up. And then at the end of the year, just to show you how much of a fighter he was and how dominant he was, he broke off not only both his G2s, but both his main beams, broke them off right past his G3. And that's at the end of the year. He's real slick there. That's at the end of February where they kind of get run down.
Weight.
Yeah.
Look at the size of his body.
They get run down. So no one got him that year. And fast forward to the next deer season, which was last deer season, he shows up and he's a full-grown man there. I mean, he's got that belly sag. He's got the brisket hanging over. And his rack really filled out. He gained some mass, he gained some tine length, and we all said, hey, this is a shooter and this is one we want to go after. So we're all going after this buck, and he continues to show up on camera.
This is definitely a shooter.
Oh, he's definitely a shooter at this point, definitely a shooter. And that's at the end of last season. No one ever even saw the deer.
So y'all hunt that farm, family farm, you hunted pretty regular.
Yes,
sir.
Your
cousins and all, but nobody ever saw him.
Nobody saw him. He was there because we had, almost 200 pictures of him on trail camera, but he never showed up. He's like he was there, but he wasn't. He was a ghost.
Yep.
And my cousin's always, now this is this year here, and you can see he's just really matured. I mean, he's got that little sway in his back, the big belly, brisket hanging over, and that's all characteristics of a mature buck.
This is a third year, and y'all are in really good shape the third year, and y'all been watching him. I mean, y'all got him 200-some pictures.
And he's just beautiful. We were talking about he's just majestic looking with that rack symmetrical. So, my cousins, he's always up there all the time burning and, doing controlled burns, planting, bush hogging, mowing, and he never saw it either. Usually he's like, hey, I saw this wide 6 or I saw that tall 8. Well, no one ever saw him. And this was this year. This was in November. And he showed up again on camera, so we knew he was still out there.
Wow.
And finally, a couple Mondays ago, I got to meet up with him, and you can see there he's kind of busted up, but
wow!
Thank God he finally came out.
So
and
you got him
finally, yes, sir. And we were all just wanting to get him, whoever got him, but It was awesome, and I'll tell you the little story on that real quick. It was, it was a real cold morning. It was about 29, 30 degrees, high humidity, so it was a heavy, heavy frost. And I went in that morning knowing that stand, because it had rained the day before, the seat doesn't drain too good, so I knew it was going to be frozen. So I brought a rag in and a cushion, and because I put the rag down and then the cushion, when I start to thaw out, it would kind of soak up some of that water. And I got in there, and there's just frost all over that shooting rail. I mean, it was a heavy frost, which is perfect for deer hunting, and no wind. And I had some deer come out early. My scope kind of fogged up, and I think it kind of got frozen from all that frost. And I was kind of looking at some does. I said, well, if he steps out right now, I can't tell the difference between him and a doe and a yearling or whatever. Well, then the sun came out and thawed that scope out, and I could see. And about that time, he stepped out.
Oh, my goodness.
And he stepped out in one motion, stepped out and started walking straight to me. And as soon as I put the scope on him, we had so many pictures of him. When I saw him look at me in that distinct rack turn in, I knew it was him. And he stopped perfect out there, so it was special.
Let me ask you this: did your family, did y'all name this deer or anything? Or,
we did. He was just called Big Ten.
Big Ten.
He was Big Ten, and my wife knew his name too because I talked about him all the time. So
that's funny. I mean, because people do that once they 2 or 3 people see him, they give him a name, Slewfoot or Big Boy or whatever.
Yep. When we have names for a lot of them.
Yeah.
So.
Now this we talked about. This shows where cameras have revolutionized deer hunting. You used that term earlier.
Yes, sir. They have, and that helped us harvest this deer. I mean, I don't think we'd have been able to do it without the trail cameras, because me and my cousin, at the end of last year, we started figuring out he would always come in a certain way on the camera angle, on a certain trail. And that was late in the afternoon, so he was coming more likely from his bed. So we kind of narrowed that in and said, well, we know he's north of here and east of here. And then as we got more pictures of him, we kind of, it was always right there after dark, where he was coming out. So we knew he was on his feet during shooting time, but he would always arrive at our stand, at dark. So we kind of, by those pictures and the angles he would come in, we determined, hey, he's bedding in this area, and we were able to put some stands in that even closer to that bedding area, finally getting him slipping out in the daytime.
Well, we talked about that bedding area, and they tried to intercept him. We talked about that a lot. Y'all did a textbook. I would go back to this picture here, and it teaches people that they do fight. I mean, you can see the scars in one of the early pictures on them.
Yes, they do.
And that's a great picture there of that happening. And how old do you think he was?
We think he was about 6.5.
Wow.
I would like to get him aged, and taxidermist does that. But that's about what we put him at. And, we've been managing it for years, and I talked about that on here. And it was just awesome how everything came together. And I told you, too, earlier, just like when your brother killed that deer, it was kind of bittersweet watching him go down, because I'm telling you, I was excited. I mean, I was super excited, but at the same time, he ruled the roost for 3 years there, and he was the man, and very cautious, calculated, and finally to get him, it was kind of, like I say, bittersweet.
Well, and there's only a handful of people who understand where you're coming from when you say that, but I know I'm one of those. But the thing about it, he lived for 6, and he was going to get ready. He was going down. He's going to be miserable. He's going to get beat up by other bucks and all. So you got him at a great time. How much did he weigh?
He was run down. He weighed 165.
So he'd run down. So at the end of the year, probably 180 during the.
Yeah, I think he was close to 180, 190 when he was really going. So.
That is a great story, and that shows you stay after it. Real quick, tell a story about the Valentine's Day.
Oh yeah.
Real quick,
okay.
People appreciate that.
Last year on Valentine's Day morning, I took my wife Nicole, and she's been on the show. I took her to Ochisi Creamery, and we picked up some milk and yogurt and ice cream, and I let her look at the calves and everything from those Jersey cows. Well, guess who was at my deer stand that morning? Big Ten stepped out. He hadn't showed up all year during the daytime, and he showed up at 7:15 Valentine's Day morning, looking pretty in the camera. So
well, he got to live another year, and
he
probably made us some more does. Y'all have good DNA.
Oh yeah, yes sir.
Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Sitting with Travis Basford, and we're talking about hunting instead of FWC. But real quick, I got an addendum to that. You hadn't shot one in 4 years?
Oh, yes, sir. That was the first buck I killed in 4 years. And if I got to wait another 4, I mean, I'll do it, because like we talked about, I mean, we manage our property, and we shoot a doe every year, and that's enough meat. We eat deer meat about once a week, and that lasts us through the year. And that's
great.
It's cool waiting on something like that.
It's worth the wait.
Yes, sir.
Okay, FWC, what's going on?
Let's get down to business. One thing, while we're talking about deer, as far as FWC goes, the rivers have been high. Apalachicola, Chaltahatchee. I think wouldn't they peak about 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
And we had some reports, and we had some officers working this, and I had a lot of people at the gas station kind of come up and ask me about this. Can you take a swimming deer? And the answer is no. It's illegal to take one. A lot of people hunt these rivers, and when the water rises like that, some of these, especially these islands and stuff like that, they get flooded, and those deer are gonna try to get out. And when they're in the water like that, it's not a legal method to take because it's not considered, sporting to take.
Well,
one like
it's
that.
not just illegal; it's just so unethical to even think about taking a deer. I mean, I just can't envision it. So it's unethical,
Right.
but illegal.
Exactly. So I want to clear it up because I had a lot of questions on it. Some people, I think they knew. Some people really didn't know. And
that's
because
true.
they'd seen them, and you're going to see them this time of year when the water gets up.
Well,
so.
because some people do it, and other people do it, and they think it's
know.
okay.
I know it.
So y'all busted some.
Yeah, they've been doing it in Apalachicola especially. Now Chaltahatchee did get high as well, but Apalachicola had a lot of flooding. So can't take swimming deer, and then everyone please remember your antler restrictions. We've had a few cases made this year again on people. You just got to be careful when you're looking south of I-10, 2 points on one side or more, north of I-10, 3 points on one side or more, or a main beam 10 inches or more. Just make sure before you pull that trigger that buck meets that antler restriction. So, but let's talk about some fishing. We got that coming up. Spring's going to be here before you know it. And I spoke about this. We got a commission meeting coming up, and I want to talk about a few things that are going to go down at the commission meeting and things they're going to be talking about. It's February 10th and 11th. It's going to be in Tallahassee. And if you're a red fisherman, I'll talk about that here in a minute, you might want to go. They're going to talk about redfish there and how important that is. That's just one of the main sport fish we have here in the Northwest region. But when we got red snapper coming up, and they're thinking about, and looks like from everything what I've heard, they're going to go with the same season they did last year in state waters. And they're going to look to approve that February 10th and 11th.
Cool.
So that would be a 65-day season. Pretty good season. It would be May 28th through July 12th, and then it would open all those Saturdays and Sundays in September and October. So May 28th through July 12th, then it reopened Labor Day weekend, the first weekend of September. Be open that Monday as well. And then, that Saturdays and Sundays thing, a lot of people like that because that's when most people get to go fishing.
Right.
And, the average recreational angler, that's when he gets to go. It's all dependent on weather, but it gives them a greater opportunity to go harvest more red snappers. So the federal season, we're still going to have to wait a little bit, but we should have the state season here by the end of February.
You have any idea when they're going to talk about the federal season? Anybody say anything?
Usually it's late spring when that stuff goes down. And we're talking about possibly changing the way they look at the dates on that and handling that over to the states, a more region-specific area, instead of just saying, hey, the whole Gulf, this is what we're going to do. So we're hoping that's going to be implied this year because we want to see more, FWC biologists, they've done their studies and they want to go out and, they want the fishermen to be able to harvest fish. And from what they've seen, the red snapper have come back. That's why we've got 65 days here in state waters. So hopefully we can get something more with the federal season because that's where a lot of people like to go. That's where a lot of the big fish are.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good news.
Good news. And then another regulation that's going to be coming out of this meeting is Gulf gag grouper. They're going to bring that up to 24 inches. That's going to match a federal rule that's going down, and that's just staying consistent. That's what the state and federal, they try to, for the most part, and I know the red snapper seasons have been different lately, but they try to keep size limits and bag limits the same. And that's what they're going to try to do with this Gulf gag grouper. So more than likely it's going to be going up 24 inches. We'll know here at this meeting whether that goes through. The next thing I was going to talk about was exactly, I'm just going to read this verbatim. It's the Gulf Fishery Management Council and how that's going to relate to the state then, getting into federal regulations, basically. And it's the purpose of the council's regional management proposal is to provide a management flexibility by restructuring federal red snapper management to allow for reasonable management measures that better account for biological, social, and economic differences throughout the Gulf. Okay, that's what they're talking about when they want it on a more region level. So if Florida thinks they can have a longer federal season, they're going to try to let them do that.
So they're headed in the right direction, we feel like.
Right.
We're headed that way.
Exactly.
May not be there yet, but they're getting enough feedback now.
They are, and hopefully we'll see that this year. And we were
Cool.
talking, it looks like it's going to be late spring
Yeah.
before we see the federal season, but that's the direction they're going. And one thing they're going to do on the federally permitted charter boats, they're trying to push this through for this season. They're going to do an electronic catch measurement. So every time when a federally permitted charter boat goes out, the ones they select, when they come back, they electronically enter in all that data, how many fish you catch, your size limits, and all that. So that way they can improve. Hey, we are catching a lot of fish out
That's
there.
going to be interesting. Mm-hmm. That's going to be interesting.
So that's one thing coming up that's pretty exciting with the federal fishery.
And we'll talk about snapper, how important it is to our whole area.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is the cornerstone of our
Yeah.
offshore fishery. So,
Yeah.
yep.
All right. You got anything else there? Or we got to
I do. You want to take a break? Or
Well,
we can,
you got
we can go
more.
on?
Let's do one more.
Okay, one more. That's the thing I was going to talk about, redfish. Okay, red drum. That's a huge sport fish for our area. And they haven't done a stock assessment since 2008. Okay, they're going to talk about the stock assessment they did in 2015. The good news is redfish numbers are good. And especially in our region, they base all of our redfish regulations on an escapement rate, and that's the percentage of fish surviving through age 4. And after age 4, based on what our biologists say, they're past the slot limit. So legally, they should not be harvested. Okay, so once they escape past age 4, they should survive for the rest of their life unless they die of natural causes. Okay, so it's that number compared to the number of fish that would survive if there were no fishery at all. Okay, so that's how they get this escapement rate.
Okay.
In the Northwest region, we're at 66%. As long as we're over 40% escapement, we're good. So we're well over that.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, and actually we were one of the highest ones. The next one was Southwest region at 68%, but those two regions were the highest by far.
That's cool.
So that's real good numbers. And to make a long story short, redfish numbers are good. And what they're wanting, just like when they increased the bag limit to 2 fish per person a few years ago, they're wanting more public input because we've had a lot of redfish tournaments. We've had red tide up here. They want to let people talk about that. Even though I've heard people catching redfish lately, we had red tide. And then a big thing is the closures, the increased closures for our offshore species has affected the inshore fishery. I mean, more people, and I've heard a lot of people, they're selling their offshore boats and they're getting flats boats and they're targeting redfish, speckled trout, and flounder.
That's true.
What is that doing to that fishery? It's increased pressure.
Yeah.
So they want to talk about all these things, and they encourage people to go to these meetings and give their input. What are you seeing out there when you fish these local tournaments? What are you seeing? Are you seeing more redfish, less, bigger, smaller? They want all those things. So.
Okay. Well, we'll keep you posted on that too. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Here with Travis Bashford from FWC. But first, let's take a look at our fishing game forecast brought to us by Mark Coward of Counts Real Estate. Looking on the screen there, our time this morning, 2:21 to 4:21, and this afternoon, 2:43 to 4:43 to go out and catch some of those redfish. Okay, so you have a case of the month for us, or what do you?
We do have an awesome case of the month.
Okay.
Awesome case of the month. And before we get to that, I wanted to recognize a couple officers in Jackson County. They've been doing a great job up there. They're making a lot of night hunting cases. Some of them even spilling over into Alabama. Excuse me. But up in Jackson County, officers Hank Forehand, Lieutenant Ben Allen, Officer Mike Guy, and Officer Eli Burkhead. They've been doing a great job in several night hunting cases that have been made just over the past month up there.
They're still night hunting.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to never learn.
It still goes on. It still goes on,
It's
trust
amazing.
me. But the case of the month here, this was pretty exciting, and this was something different. This was our investigation section. This investigation took several months. It was a lot of different people involved, and it started from a tip from Montana Fish and Wildlife.
Okay.
They had a complaint. What are the 3 things people come to Florida to hunt? They want to hunt Osceola turkeys, they want to hunt alligators, and they want to hunt wild hog. So, just like people from Florida, they like to go up to the Midwest and hunt big whitetail deer, go out west and hunt an elk or a mule deer. So we got the tip from Montana Fish and Wildlife, and we had a guy was basically scamming people out of money. This was people from 6 different states wanting to come to Florida to do a hunt. He posed as a charter to all expenses, everything included, all inclusive. Had the condo set up, the licenses. You can take an Osceola turkey, an alligator, and all this and that, and it never happened. Well, what these people were doing, they were forwarding money. and putting down payments on these hunts that never came to fruition. So, of course, they called the authorities and they started complaining. There was a guy from Montana that complained first to his local Fish and Wildlife office. They got with our investigators, and to make a long story short, again, 6 different states, there was 26 victims, and they were scammed out of a total of $16,000 for these, they were basically phony hunts. Yeah. And the guy was down in Volusia County. After working with the locals down there, this was our investigators in the Northwest region that worked on this case, and they finally got a warrant, and the guy ended up turning himself in. So, kind of different one on that one, but you just never know who you're dealing with. So if you're gonna do a hunt, don't forward stuff like that.
Well, but you would think it's legitimate. Something like that sounds so legitimate.
And he was very convincing. He was very convincing. I saw some of the stuff, and I mean, it looked just like any kind of good, legitimate paid hunt. So it was pretty interesting. Just good work by investigators, and just a little backdrop on it. Right now, he was adjudicated guilty, fine cost, sentenced to probation, and full restitution to the victims, and he's paid back $10,000 of the $16,000. So he's still got a little bit more to go. But that's a lot of money.
Well, what's fascinating how people think they keep getting away with night hunting and scamming, and I guess it's just in their DNA or something.
It is.
And, I guess you see it on a daily basis.
We do, and I'm gonna tell you that night hunt still goes on.
Golly.
It might not be as prevalent as it used to be, but it still goes on.
The lights are brighter now.
Oh yeah.
Back in the old day, they had one old railback out there trying to find them, but
oh yeah.
We appreciate all you guys. You mentioned some names of those guys. They work hard.
They do.
And they're out there at midnight in this really freezing weather, and we take that for granted.
Exactly, and sometimes I mean you question your sanity out there when it's about 25 and it is 1 in the morning, but you're doing what you love to do, and we're the only ones that are trying to stand up for, in that case, deer, being taken at night. So it's fun and it's exciting.
Good stuff. Good show. Congratulations on that big buck.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Y'all do something good for your fellow man. Have a great day, and God bless.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.